Today, our heads are on the chopping block.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Burnt on Religion. This is the podcast for those who have been burnt, who are currently being burnt, and those who are avoiding being burnt. I am Ashton, and I'm part of this very, very off-brand ZZ Top band with these two Joshes. I don't know who's Billy. I think am I the drummer that got shaved his beard?
I think you are. Yeah, I think you would be. Yeah.
The guy whose last name was Beard.
Yes.
Yeah. The only guy in ZZ Top who had no beard. His last name is Beard.
By the way, this is really off-brand. Just look at us. We don't even have the right look. Especially less.
But on the bright side,
What are you talking about?
women go crazy for a sharp dressed man.
That's very true.
Which again,
we're still
we missed
in
it.
trouble.
Yeah, so we are really off-brand.
You got a collar going.
We have to move up to get to the generic level. So we did announce last time that we are going to put our heads on the chopping block, and we have talked about it, and that is what we're doing today. We are going to bring a little show and tell, and let's pass judgment on each other.
Yeah.
I think we're
Ashton?
past that part. We're past that part.
We are toast today. Yeah, last episode we ended it talking about how the law was something that doesn't pertain to us. That Jesus is the fulfillment of the law. He did all that, and he even did that for us. And then Josh over there starts talking about other laws.
Way to go.
Well, we talked about the Pharisees bringing in laws, and there's 600 some laws, and after a while, again, it's like hurdles in a race. You're jumping over hurdles to inevitably land on other hurdles because there's too many.
Yes.
Way too many hurdles.
Yes.
And again, after a while, it's religion, and we're talking about it with relationship. Humanity throws in that secret sauce. We always kind of we could do it, spice it up, and we just little self effort.
Possibly go wrong.
Little self effort has always caused a problem.
Yes,
but this time it may work, is what we think, I guess. And then we just kind of
this time will be different. Yeah. So there are so many. The reason why we started this podcast is because of how people are judged and they're shamed and they're burnt on religion. A lot of people don't want to go to church because, let's say you made a decision in your past that was a negative one. And we've all done it. We've all made choices that we wish we could go back and not make. But you carry that judgment and that shame. And then there's certain things that you can do to make it a permanent deal. We are going to place ourselves into the category of the judged and ruin ourselves. But there's so many people out there though that are they are currently. I know a girl that doesn't go to church, won't even come to our church, will not go to church because of how hurt she's been because of the church crowd. She can't even trust that ours could be different because aren't they all different? Don't they all say our church is different?
I know a couple.
Yeah. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And when we place that judgment, that shame on people, why would they want Christianity? And today we're going to talk about that and put our own heads on the chopping block. Which I don't know. Remember whose idea that was?
Maybe that was this one.
Was it Ashton?
Ashton.
Okay. Let's go with Ashton.
Let's blame it. I'm going to keep burning Ashton this whole episode.
Let's do it. No judgment there.
But do we just tackle the verses? Do we just throw these verses out there and then just say, hey, we're just going to go after these ones?
We did come up with 3 good ones today. And we do every episode, we want to bring up the verse, we want to cause the trouble, but we do want to bring it home to context because otherwise we've totally lost the purpose of this podcast altogether.
Yes.
So but today you get 3 for the price of 1.
What?
Yes.
That's a better deal than a couple weeks ago when I tried.
Yeah, it is a
guys.
better deal.
Man.
Yeah.
Again, selling us. That's still a weird thing, but it's never mind.
Yeah, and also the price today is 0. For today and not today only. Anytime you listen to this episode.
Yeah.
You
can have a free.
That's a good deal.
Sir, that's what we got to talk to marketing and
What?
they would know.
Already made an executive decision.
I like to think this is
You
kind
need
of
to
our
talk to
call.
HR now.
Yeah.
For this episode.
So,
I've never referenced HR for anything.
so
ever,
three for the price. Yeah, three for the price of one. And today the price is 0. And any day you listen to this episode, the price will remain 0. So it's a good deal. It's a good deal. So
All right.
let's tackle. Yeah, throw them all out
right.
there.
So-
Let's just muddy the water all the way.
Let's deal with some basic ones. So let's go with 1 Corinthians 11:14, because this is one where this one will be easy to address currently, and then we can deal with it. But does not even nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a dishonor to him?
What a
Common
shame.
one. It is a shame.
What a
on
shame.
them, you know.
Get your haircuts, men.
Yeah.
Make
because-
sure you get the
Yeah.
haircuts.
Okay, so I got a question for if you guys grew up the same. So did you have a thing like that where were men required to keep the hair high and tight and short?
I don't. For me, growing up, it wasn't more of a religious thing. It was more of keep up your appearance
Okay.
at the household
Yeah.
level. I don't remember that ever being taught growing up that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So for me, I went to Bible college.
was gonna ask
there
you,
was a
man.
rule.
I was going to ask your rules.
Yeah.
So I think I have my book somewhere.
Right. Yes. There is literature
Yeah.
on how we're supposed to keep our hair in Bible college. So if it hit
My
your collar,
college was uncredited, so there's a lot of typos, and it's pretty funny.
Right.
Carry on.
So if your hair hit your collar, if it went over your ears, these were very un-Jesus-y looks.
Yeah, not past the middle of the forehead.
No, not your old paintings of Jesus looks, because those, we were told those were wrong anyway. That's not what he really looked like. But we were told that, if it hit your collar, if it went over your ears, I don't know who created the standard, but there's a certain length that, hey, that's long hair now.
Yeah.
And now you're a heathen.
Yeah.
Just like that. How about you?
That's about the same, yeah.
Okay.
Can't go past the middle of your forehead. Sideburns had in the middle of your ears. Can't go on your collar.
Some short
Can't go over
sideburns.
yours. Oh yeah. Oh, whole thing. Yeah.
The
No.
bowl
It was,
cut, just
pretty much. No. I grew up, and again, part of it was easy, and then household wise, and it just saved money. The joke is, a lot of my childhood photos look like me and my brother. We just look like little militia because my dad just lined us up for shower times.
Nice.
Next. But dad did it. Dad was in the military all that time, so he's just
Right.
like, hey.
if he has to do it,
Saves
you
a
have to
couple
do it.
bucks.
That's right.
And it keeps
Yep.
us in compliance
Shave
with
'em.
school rules. Go.
Right.
So
There you go.
it's-
Yep.
So it's that one. That's one of those common rules. So just as a preview, and we will say this might be a little bit of a fun episode for some of us. This is some of these topics are things where, again, so much of this will point to this relationship that we have in Christ, and that is the most important thing, and where we're at now, and an understanding of who He is and what He's done for us, to where you can almost see. We talk about it. This hindsight is 2020, and we understand that.
Yep.
And we talked about it in the beginning of this episode. There are a lot of people who are hurt, and it can be sometimes these simple little things that just hurt people. They do, because people are judged for them. They're hurt by them, and some people say the most awful things and do the most awful things and treat people awfully.
And the crime is
On
they
this
have a verse, the one that you just read there.
Yes.
That's right.
They have a verse to back up their judgment and shame
Yep.
approach. And that just seals the deal. They don't want to come to your church.
But for the fun aspect of it, we just want to I want to give a preview by saying it might be a little bit of fun, because hindsight being 2020 now, looking at some of these things and the hurt that they are, and for those of you who have been hurt by it, we don't mean any offense by it, but
No.
what we want to help you with and hope that you see from it, if this applies to you and is something that has been used to hurt you, just know that there is some thin ice, some shallow ground. But I don't know what I want to say really. There's not a lot to stand on
Misinterpretation.
contextually.
Yes.
Looking at these things, and after a while you realize that this is really shaky, and there's not a lot to use this, and it was just kind of. It wasn't well done.
Yeah, the three topics that we're going to bring up today are all thin ice. There's not a leg to stand on any of this, although there are 3 verses to stand on.
Yep.
And some of them get deeper. I mean, you brought up the long hair one.
Yep.
That's one of the who cares? Different style, 60s. Nobody was following the rules in the 60s.
Nope.
They all had the long hair. But then you get to the other topics, and it like people are like, now hold on, now we're getting serious.
Yep. Oh, and I'd say Ashton talked about, and kind of before this episode, he brought up another verse that he talked about when he was younger, and we of course know the verse he's talking about, and that was one that connects almost all of these. And that one that needs addressed because that's one that everybody applies to everything. And it can apply to a bunch of different topics. It's used for a ton of different stuff.
Yep.
And does have an understanding, and like we talked about at the end of the last episode, in that air quote, biblical principle.
Hey, you remembered.
Hey, you did.
Hey,
Good job. It's been enough time, and he still held on to it. Look at you.
Nice.
So, but going on to the next one, and this is just a shame for these guys, is Leviticus 19:28. You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, or tattoo any marks on you. I am the Lord. So for those who don't know, these guys have indelibly marked their bodies in a way that cannot be removed without lasers. And even then, that's just still scarring yourself. So,
Josh, why are
There's a
your
shame.
arms under the table?
Why are you hiding?
What are you
hiding? I dropped something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like
So
your
the-
integrity.
Yeah, so there's that stuff. Not to mark your flesh for the dead and all those type of things.
Hey, everybody who's up part of this podcast, please raise your hand.
I say, yeah.
That hand. So we do have an issue here, as Josh so innocently pointed out, that I have a tattoo and so does Ashton. But Josh, you win. Look at this. If you're viewing instead of just listening,
Give me a second.
look at Josh there. He is.
If I can remember the order in which it's 1, 2, 3, 4 back there.
You want to scoot over here,
I
Ashton?
didn't- I
5.
didn't even know. I feel
6,
the hellfire.
Right.
7,
Right.
8.
8 tattoos.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm okay because I only have one. How many do you have?
Just the one.
Just the one. So we're okay. Actually, if you fail on one point, you fail in all.
Yeah.
So
No.
8 or 1, we're still into the area of judgment on that one too.
Oh, no, it gets worse. We can get into a whole thing because I think that's a pagan symbol, and I think I got
What?
a pagan symbol back there. Can you all see that one?
Sir.
There's
Yes.
the pagan symbol back there.
I didn't know. I didn't even know those were pagan symbols.
Yeah, we just got issues all the way around. So there's just
Okay, well,
issues.
and by the way, please don't click, don't leave us. You know, like all 3 of them have tattoos. I got to go to a different podcast.
Oh, man.
At least hear us out on this one before you leave, because it, like you said, it'll be a fun one. And we're not putting anybody down just because you believe tattoos are wrong or long hair is wrong or anything like that. We're not trying to judge or shame. We're not trying to reverse this.
Yep.
But at the same time, we want to bring clarity to this, and we all did make the decision to get a tattoo.
Yeah.
So I think we need to clear that up for ourselves too.
No,
but
for
let's
sure.
continue. Let's make let's
And
dirty
then,
the water.
kind of keeping with on brand of last week, we did talk about the Sabbath day and keeping it holy, 4th commandment. So,
Yes.
dealing with another one of the 10 commandments, and this is one that applies to all of us because all of us have taken the name of the Lord, our God.
Yes, we have.
And I'm going to stop it right there. So, Exodus 20, verse 7, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain.
3rd commandment. That's one of
So,
the big 10. The top 10.
One of the big, the original,
Right.
the OGs.
Yes.
The rules.
Right.
So
Right.
that is one where I think that's the one. There's the Sunday school understanding of it. I guess that'd be the one you heard from day one, from the first class on up, and that's watch your mouth. That's
right.
Having to
Yeah.
sit there with a bar of soap in front of the bathroom mirror.
Yeah. You
type
say
thing.
you say the 3 letters OMG.
Yeah.
You've got a problem.
Yeah.
You've got a problem.
close.
Yeah.
close.
You don't even have to say the words. That's too close. Yeah.
Good golly gosh, and you were
Hey.
you were working your way
man,
too close.
whoa.
Yeah.
Sir.
Goodness. Goodness.
Do you?
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. So all 3 of these things, and by the way, even that last one could come across offensive to people, and we understand that. But the reason why we're almost walking in lightly on these topics is because it is thin ice. It is there's not a whole lot to stand on these, and we want
We
to
are
show you
sure
why.
of our footing.
We are, and I mean to the point where we all 3 have a tattoo. Mine is recent. Actually, yours is the most recent, Ashton. he got a tattoo after I got a tattoo, and Josh apparently was born with them because there's a lot of tattooing over there. So
Born with pagan symbols.
I say it's been a while,
right? So we all made a conscious decision to move forward in that area, and the question is, how can you do that when you have that verse in Leviticus? I know what verse it is too. It's Leviticus 19:28. I do.
How convenient.
and you can explain that. You can explain why you know that so well.
So we want to hit the topic of tattoo. Let's take one. Let's take one down here.
Might as well.
Okay.
That'll be the one that's the most conversational, I think, right now.
Okay.
Just because we can talk about it.
Okay.
And I'll just jump in here for myself right now. Most of mine were put on there when I really just was going to get tattoos just because I wanted to get tattoos.
Rebellion.
Yeah. And more of this was like when I really came to an understanding of this, I could get a tattoo and it was fine. Then I got a tattoo and it was fine. Most of the time I got it when I knew I was doing it. So there's that whole thing. I could do it when it was in rebellion.
Okay.
And there was that.
Right.
Then I got into it. So, but mine was just, I was getting tattooed. So these guys, way worse. All right, just want to say it. I went first. First liar wins.
Okay, so Ashton, what is your tattoo? We know his is all pagan symbols or something like that, but what's your tattoo?
Mine is, because I enjoy playing guitar. I'm not very good at it, but it's one of those therapeutic things for me.
Okay.
So my first guitar, official name brand, I bought was a Fender Stratocaster. And that was a big milestone for me when it was my first job and everything, and I was kind of in and out of a few bands in high school, and that was like, to me, like one of the holy grails you could get at that point in time. So I got that, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but it has different musical notes, and some are red, some are yellow, some are blue, for different types of the emotions that people go through: anger, joy, sadness. Okay. And one little bitty one, if anybody's done any music theory, there's certain ways to put your staves on paper going up or down. Your music sheet music there, and that one is purposely done wrong in red for the mistakes I have done when I was angry.
Okay.
So.
All right. So everybody's got a story behind their tattoo. Nobody goes in there, hey, just surprise me. You know, everybody, maybe, I'm looking at Josh, maybe people do that. But most people have purpose to why they want a tattoo. And I think that's a cool meaning. I know people that have a child that they lost or whatever, the picture of their child tattooed on their body so they can, periodically just look in the face of that child again. My tattoo, I don't know if I'm in the screen or not. I'll just hold it up like this.
Whoa, put those guns away, sir.
Yeah.
Put them away.
Mine says Leviticus 19:28, and underneath it says context is everything. That is what is on my arm. And that's the only tattoo I have. That's the only tattoo I want. And the reason I got that tattoo is because Leviticus 19:28 is taken out of context, and that's why this episode is, why this topic's in this episode. So many people are judged for having a tattoo. Now, as soon as I got this tattoo, I put it on Facebook. By the way, a couple people look at that, just by the way. If you're wondering if that's a good way to promote something, it's excellent.
Social media is weird that way.
Yes. A lot of people are into that. So when we put it on Facebook, I had one person comment, and it's amazing the bravery people have behind that screen.
Oh, yeah.
They might not say it to your face, but they'll say it in your comment, in your chat. But they told me, you did that out of rebellion against the Lord. Like, no, I actually did it out of rebellion against religious shaming.
Yep.
That's why I had this Leviticus 19:28. Context is everything, and I think we need to clear that up. So I'm going to pull up some verses. I put some verses here that are in the same chapter. Leviticus 19:28 is the verse for the tattoos. I'll read that verse again. It says, "You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor tattoo any marks on you. I am the Lord." Now here's a couple other verses that come from that same chapter. The wages of him who is hired, this is verse 13, by the way. The wages of him who is hired shall not remain with you all. Shall not remain with you all night until morning. So every day is payday.
Nice.
Isn't that awesome? So if the wages of him who is hired shall not remain with you until morning, every day's payday. Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
Verse 19, it says, nor shall a garment of mixed linen or wool come upon you. Polyester. I don't know how many people are out there wearing polyester, but that's out.
Keep your shirt on, Ashton.
That's right. That's out. You don't want to mix fabrics. Verse 26, it says, you shall not eat anything with blood. That's right.
There goes my weekend.
There goes your rare steak. There goes your medium rare steak. And by the way, I can enjoy one. I don't prefer it rare, but I like medium rare to medium. I like that.
Barbecues?
You're ruining a lot of parties with this verse.
That's like flip the table, man.
Now you're going against steaks.
I don't know if my dad's ever had anything other than rare.
Right.
In his entire life.
Fuses. My in-laws say that a good vet could bring it back. That's how they like their steaks. Verse 27, the very next verse, it says, you shall not shave, Ashton. You shall not shave.
It is there.
The sides are still there.
You shall not shave around the sides of your head, nor shall you disfigure the edges of your beard. So haircuts and beard trimming have been canceled, Ashton. And look what you did just recently.
I'm on the edge, sir.
Doesn't say anything. It's your.
Yeah.
By the way, it says of your beard, sir. That is not a beard. Those are mutton chops. It's coming back.
How dare you, sir? Look at the lighting.
Right. We'll have to get a microscope out here. It is a beard. And then the last one I pulled up is verse 32. It says, you shall rise before the gray-headed and honor the presence of an old man. So no more waking up kids for school, guys. They're going to go ahead and rise first. Isn't that good news?
I wish.
So people consider tattoos to be a sin, but these other laws are never an issue. Isn't it amazing that nobody talks about these laws, which are in the same chapter, in the same context?
So I can tell my kids they're sinning every morning?
Yeah, you're supposed to wake up before the gray-headed is what you got to tell.
Well, I'm not gray-headed.
Okay,
so.
My kids have to get up first.
You're the only one.
Yeah, right. So, but we look at these verses, and why isn't anybody talking about these verses in that chapter? But they definitely go after the tattoo. If they see your tattoo, then they shame you. And what was the verse that you pulled up earlier, Ashton?
About your body's a temple.
Yes, that verse right there. I have a tattoo on my arm. You have a tattoo on yours, and Josh is bathing in them. And so look, you ruin the temple, is what they say. Yes. They use that verse and say you ruin the temple.
Graffiti on your temple.
That's right. Why would you do that? So this whole idea of the tattoos, what people don't realize is you should use all of these laws in this topic. If you're going to use one, use them all. But we don't. We're wearing blended fabrics and we're eating our ribeye steak. The kids are still in bed. All of these things are going wrong. But at least we don't have a tattoo, because that would be wrong. Yeah. Context is so important. So what's happening at this time is God's taking a people out of a pagan culture. Remember, they're coming out of Egypt. He's taking them out of Egypt, and he's going to give them a law, and he's making them a people of his own. He's making his own nation. In Egyptian worship, they would cut themselves. The Baal, Elijah
and
the prophets of Baal, they're cutting themselves and all of that. That's what they were doing. So they would cut themselves, or they would tattoo themselves in honor of their false gods. And God is just telling them, don't do this. There's no need for this. I'm not that God. And he wants them to understand who he is. It's not a commandment for Western cultures to judge other people because you got a picture of your deceased child on your arm, or I have a Bible verse on my arm, and that's considered worse than a pagan symbol. Yeah, because it's the Bible verse that says don't put a tattoo on yourself. So there's nothing wrong with getting a tattoo. There could be something wrong with what you do tattoo on yourself. Yeah, that could be a problem, and I'm not arguing that. But there's nothing wrong with a tattoo at all.
There is, that's the one where we understand, and you say these things. There always is that natural line. There are certain things that cross lines, and we can understand that.
Right.
But there is an element of it. We talk about it with dress or any of those things. And so many of these things have been given a taboo, or so many things in our culture and whatnot. And we talk about it here when we get into hair. We talk about these appearance.
Right.
You talked about, and as we just transition into that one, because I think now again, I think I'm above board right now. I'm above board right now. Now in previous episodes, I fall a little bit in terms of my school rules. Right now, I'm above board in terms of my hair.
Oh, your haircut?
My hair length, yeah. So
you want to see him in sin, though. Go ahead and do the first 3 episodes.
Previous episodes, it's been longer before.
Right.
But, in terms of that, it is this, we have this cultural expectation. We have this understanding of what it is. And there are obviously elements where you can cross the line. If you get certain things tattooed, we can be like, okay, yeah,
sure,
that bad.
Right.
Not a good tattoo. You know when it's not. But there is this thing where you are not violating a scriptural law as we are under now. Under this, when we're dealing with this New Testament, when we're dealing with what Christ has done, when we're dealing with the relationship, the plan that God has provided for us.
Right.
When we're dealing with context, like your arm says.
Context is everything.
That is not the act of it, the act of doing it.
Right.
Nothing wrong there.
Sure. Yes.
And it is dealing with something like this where there is these elements of it that we have addressed to it because they don't fit with what we like, or we don't do this. And then they get, and especially in religious circles, which we can all talk about, they get really broken down here.
Yes.
And so we get even more, we separate even more, and then we have ecclesiastical separation even more, and then we got to separate from those people because they're too crazy, and then there's all this and that.
Right.
And this is what we're dealing with, is so much. And so now we get into one like this, which again, a lot of it deals, and this is a common one, and I think these are the topics you see a lot of, is appearance based or different. They're simple things. I don't want to say shallow, but they're the simple things.
Right.
They're your basic things. They're your things where it is the God looks on the outward, man looks on the outward appearance, but God sees the heart type thing.
Yep.
And it always is this one, but these are the big deals right now. It's religion. And these are why we bring these up, and why so many people are hurt by them is because, it's praying in the synagogues. It's the Pharisees still. Yep. It's still a common thing. We try to do everything right in these ways.
Right.
And many of us, put my arms up and everything, have not. So whether for the right reason or the wrong reason, and I'll put myself in the category of wrong reasons, are not in the right boat. But it is this, where are you coming from? Where is the heart of the matter?
Right.
And that is what God is after. And it's just these actions that we get hung up on when there's nothing wrong with them.
And even if you did do some of those tattoos for the wrong reason, why do we define people by a past action? Why do we do that? It's wrong. Even Jesus with the woman that was caught in adultery, he said, "Go and sin no more." He didn't say, "By the way, you'll be known for this forever," even though she was.
Yeah.
We don't know her. We don't know her name, but we do know her reputation.
Yeah.
But still, he didn't say you will now be defined by your past actions. He didn't do that, and we shouldn't do that either.
Like Ashton, we'll always pick a favorite child and kill out.
Right, man.
So.
How's that going on?
I'm just saying. Lines for boundaries. They know who they are.
So, dealing with this one, we had to deal with, so long hair on men is another one that is dealt with, and it's a cultural thing. Yeah. So, there are some, again, and I know people who are this way. My father is this way. He still gives me a hard time if my hair is a little long, and that's fine.
Sure.
We get it. Everyone's this way. But it is one where there are people who, it is a no-fly zone. Do not do this.
Yeah.
And right now I'm above board, so I feel totally comfortable.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
I'll shame all these people. Shame on them.
Give it a couple weeks.
So the verse again is 1 Corinthians 11:14. Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a dishonor to him? Yeah. So a lot of this one, again, context is everything, and this is one of those where context is, and that's context can be a lot in terms of you can go to the verse before, you can go to the verse after. And sometimes that's the context is what it says, but we need to understand the context of what surrounds this scripture as well.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of those moments. We've talked about it, I think, in previous episodes before when we were dealing with this one, and we've talked about it with women and different things of that nature. And we have to remember that we're dealing with the city of Corinth here, and it's pagan temples and it's false gods. Corinth was not a great place in terms of just being a great place.
No, it's not your role model situation at all.
Yep, it was. You're dealing with a culture that had, in a way, like flipped gender roles in so much, and in terms of religious practices and roles that had gone so much further in terms of pagan practices that had gone from not just the temple, but were in the home, were baked into the culture itself now, and were affecting just the daily life of all of these people and these Christians and just the church itself and what was their surrounding environment. So it's a localized issue that Paul is dealing with here. And so you have women who would shave their heads, and then men would let their hair grow long. And in all honesty, you're dealing with the topic of temple prostitution, and that's a thing. So
let's not talk about that too long. But yes, that was an issue of the day, and so that's what they're doing with their hair for that.
Yes,
so for that purpose. Yeah,
there is this. This is the scenario. This is what is going on. That is the context surrounding this verse.
Yep.
So the problem we have, and what so many people do when we take a verse like this, and we can get into other ones where we can show, okay, we have a conflict even. In Scripture itself, we're presented with a conflict in terms of law that God has given, is that this is what happens when we separate the context. This is why it is important to understand that context around, because when you just separate Scripture from its surrounding context, rip it and throw it at somebody, you lose something, and then you can make Scripture say something it was never intended to say. And like we've talked about before, and I know people who are in this boat who have been hurt by topics like this. Like we've talked about, the body is the temple, tattoos, whatever it may be, these just simple appearance things. These are the things that things get ripped out and just thrown at them. And so, again, one of the common things that I think a lot of people reference is the Nazirite vow, is talking about Samson. Is if this is the case, then we're talking about God allowing sin in this regard. If it is a shame and a sin for man to have long hair, God allows it here, but not here.
So he condones sin in one place, and then
a God who never changes, mind you,
is saying,
allows it here, but doesn't allow it there.
So Samson, never let your hair. And everybody knows Samson and Delilah. There's songs about it. There's. I mean, you watch your cartoons. You don't even have to know much about the Bible. You know Samson.
I say, that's. Oh, my daughter has the baby Bible, where it's just the simple 2-page story. Samson's in there. I mean, it's everywhere.
So Samson, we know he has long hair. We know his strength was in his hair, and when she cuts his hair, he doesn't have strength. We know that story, but God's the one that told him not to cut his hair. So now you got a long hair on a man. You have long hair on a man, and God condones it. And then in the New Testament, people use this verse to say, hey, it's a sin. By the way, the verse doesn't even say it's a sin. It says it's a shame or a dishonor. But it doesn't say it's a sin. And that is a cultural thing, like you said, in Corinth. It says nature itself even says that it's a dishonor. We're not talking about nature as far as look at the animal kingdom.
Because I always saw that. I remember thinking that as a kid, like lions.
They have the men have long hair.
Like, what about that?
Nature itself says the man has long hair. A peacock. Look at the peacock. The male. That's the long hair. Right.
We call it a walk today. Cardinals. The males are always bright red, and females are gray.
So we're not talking about the nature of that. We're talking about the nature of the culture here, and that's what the context is. It's so important. So that's what's saying. When you're growing your hair out to indicate availability for temple prostitution, that's a darker topic than most people. Don't do that. That's bad. So, the context helps us understand why Paul mentioned that. And yet people today will use that verse and shame people because they have long hair. But if the good question is, like you brought up, Samson, Does God condone sin in one place and then
Yep.
say it's wrong in another? God can't do that.
We create conflict. That is, and in all honesty, that is one of the things that's toughest too. Is I think when you create conflict, I think that could be one of the more harmful things even than some people who go through and never get shamed. But if you go through with just that conflict created, that can be the most harmful thing you could ever do to somebody. Is create a God or a Bible that is conflicted all the way through, because that would that's the one thing I think, to also go through this life with just uncertainty that we talked about in the last episode. To have rest is awesome.
It sure is.
To have uncertainty would be just
not awesome.
Shaky ground is never what you want to be.
Right.
And so I think to round this out again, talking about that, we were talking about last week, we're talking about Ten Commandment, talking about the third one, talking about taking God's name in vain. So
yes,
our communication, our speech.
That's a big one.
And boys, watching your mouth. You know?
Yes. How many people have tasted soap through the years for violating this one?
Duff has come a long way.
I got partial to dial myself after a while.
You had your favorite soap?
Yeah. You ever watch it? Was it Christmas Story?
Yeah, right. I like Dove myself. I like that chocolatey, part of the Dove. That's my favorite soap. By the way, their soap is delicious. Their chocolate's delicious. Their soap is not as good.
I said I like to think. I knew your dad. I like to think that you did not just get off of anything with chocolate.
And by the way, I knew better. I never, air quotes, violated this law. And when I say air quotes, is because this one's so blown out of context.
I may have got caught a time or two. May have. So Ashton definitely did.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Got him.
Yeah.
So this one's taken so far out of context.
I was a slow learner.
Good for you. This one's taken so far out of context that people have no idea what this commandment's even about. They think it's saying OMG. That's just what that's how they think this. That's what they think this means. So let's read the verse again. Let's look at the commandment. Exodus 27. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. People often think that this is just using Jesus' name or saying OMG or
just cursing, derogatory manner,
right? Exactly.
Like that.
Yes. Yeah. Just using the name of God in a derogatory manner. Yes.
You're saying it with no reverence, no reason.
That's right.
No meaning.
And that's how people think. That's what they think this commandment is. Hey, when you say his name, make sure you say it with reverence and honor. And who draws that line? What is that? People don't know what to do with this. So my question always was, when did the word take ever mean speak? It says do not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. And we have translated that in our own minds of do not speak the name in vain. So when did the word take ever become the word speak or to say? I mean, if I say, hey, Ashton.
Is there like an urban dictionary? I don't know.
Yeah, there must be, yeah.
I'll ask a team.
So if I say, Ashton.
It's a dangerous game.
If I say, Ashton, speak out the trash, you're like, that guy doesn't know how to talk.
Out with you.
Out with you. We can't, we just can't mesh these two definitions together. So why do people say the word take means speak? Or to say. Where did we get that?
I have no clue.
I don't know.
I'll have to ask Mrs. Barnes one day. If I ever see her again. I'm trying to think of who my first Sunday school teacher was when we were learning Ten Commandments on the flannel board.
Well, I'm going to ask Mr. Webster because I don't know. How did we get these definitions crossed? So the word take does not mean to speak. It means to bear. It means to take. Like if you take on somebody else's burden, you're talking about you're bearing somebody else's burden. We understand how those correlate. But speak and take. Speak out the trash. You're just commanding that bag to do something, and it ain't going to do nothing.
Yeah,
it's just going to sit there. So it doesn't say not to say the Lord's name in vain. That's not what it says. It says not to take the Lord's name in vain, and take means to bear. We have to understand that. So when all three of us got married, our wives married us. Does your wife have your last name?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, mine has my last name. So what they did was they took on my name. When your kids were born, Josh, you're the newest father here. Does your daughter have your last name?
Yes, she does.
Did she say, I don't want that?
Not yet.
Not yet. So, but they did take on your name, right?
Yep.
Because now we're talking about a family name. So don't bear the family name in vain. That's all God's saying.
Yep.
You are my people. You are my family. Don't take my name in vain. Don't show dishonor. Don't live in a way that shows dishonor to the family name.
Yep.
That's what it's talking about. It has nothing to do with saying anything.
Yep.
Well, maybe saying something like, hey, there's things you shouldn't say and things you should say because it bears the name properly or improperly. But it has nothing to do with the phonetic sound of Jesus or anything like that. But we've completely lost this definition.
Yep.
This commandment's not even what God said it was.
No. Nope. But I think it is important to end this episode with this commandment. And I think what's neat about it is tying this one in and looking at it across the way as just, and everything we talk about. And it's one where, again, it's for a listener, I can imagine even listening to this one and even sitting here as we talk about it and discuss it and listening to it. It seems okay, that's almost disjointed. You can ping pong around with it. There's almost these different things. It almost seems it's a mishmash. It's pieced together. But then this point right here, there's the rhyme. Here's the reason. All this together is to say you don't take the name of the Lord your God in vain. People are ashamed, and we talked about that all the time, using these things. Okay, all three of us here are tattooed.
Right.
All three of us here have fallen into that Old Testament law and have broken it, but we've all worn mixed clothing. I shaved, Josh has shaved, Ashton obviously has shaved. Yes. So there's all these different aspects of it that we have all fallen short of. Mm-hmm. And, hair to all the way we carry a cross and all the different laws you fall short of, taking the name of God, but it's, okay, how do you represent the name?
Right.
Is it in appearance? Yes, there are aspects in it, like Josh said in the last episode. There are elements of it that you have to do. There doesn't mean you don't do right. Just because you have the liberty, just because you have the freedom, doesn't mean that you don't do right. Doesn't mean you don't do what's good. And what Christ told us to do when He died for us and said, "This is free. You are free. You're free indeed." Mm-hmm. And you've been talking about it on Sunday. Don't do things for Him. You do things from Him.
That's
we do things because of who He is, not because we're supposed to and do these things.
Right.
We do these things
not under a law
because of who He is and who we are in Him. This is why. And so, some of us and anybody can look a lot of different ways.
Yep.
But we've all worked jobs where nobody looks the same. Mm-hmm. Yep. You can wear a uniform and people are not looking the same. And that's how it is. And that's one of these things. People are going to shame and do that. That's religion.
Yep.
People will always throw in self-effort. They're always going to throw in something where man is always in there.
Yeah.
That's the perks of being here on earth. So we're going to look a certain way. There's going to be some of us who got scars. We're going to have a little longer hair. We're going to be tattooed. We're going to do this and that.
Yep.
But it is important, and it ties back into this, is how do you bear that name?
That's right.
We've taken on that name. Don't bear it in vain. There are some things. Yes, you can have these things. You can have those tattoos. You can have those things. It's not necessarily bad. The action of it is not bad. But this is the important part. What do you do with the name of it?
That's right.
And this is where it carries through. I think you can see these three things. If we just took the things that personal to us, and then we can tie it to this one right here and say that, these are the things that shame people, and they're not bad. You can make them for bad.
Yep.
But there's nothing inherently wrong in these actions.
Right.
What's the most important part, though, is if you have done these things, but you've taken this name, what are you doing with the name?
I want to give one quick example, and it's unique to our church. Maybe other churches have this going on too, but this one is unique to our church. We have a former satanic priest that attends our church. And by the way, we are not into Satanism whatsoever.
Nope.
We do not agree with that religion. We don't into that at all. But this one guy comes to our church all the time, and he's a former satanic priest. He's got the tattoos. He's got so many things that you look at him and go, what's your past? What's your story? Because there's a difference there. He is a child of God. He got saved last year or the year before. He got saved, and he comes to our church. And you know what? Those tattoos, he can't get rid of those. There are satanic symbols tattooed on his body. Yep. And he can't get rid of those. And somebody can look at those tattoos and say, hey, you're supposed to bear the name of the Lord in vain, or don't bear the name of the Lord in vain if you put it in context. Well, is he bearing the name of the Lord in vain for having those tattoos? No. What's he going to do about that? He can't get rid of that. But what he can do is use that as a testament to what God has done in his life, and he can bear the name of the Lord properly in spite of the fact that there's markings on his body. Religion and relationship have to be separated. It's not about religion. It is about relationship. And there's too much judgment going on over these trivial things because we've taken verses out of context.
I said, you can see them that way. We just pulled the personal things. But that's, if we could say anything in this episode, it's, hey, there's like he talked about, close anything. You can pull so much that there's nothing inherently wrong with it.
Yep.
What we do with the name as Christians, as those who have it, that religion has just harped on for whatever reason or another. Religion likes to harp on it, whether it's cultural, taboo, whatever it may be. What we do with the name, how we use that, and living from God. That's the most important thing, and that's what it's about religion. Or about relationship, not about religion.
Right. Yes.
Fix that. But that is, thank you. I did my best to try to just ruin this ending. No, this has been a fun episode, and this is one where, again, it's easy to pick around and touch on our personal stuff, but that's what we just want people to know, that, hey, we get it. You're looking at a bunch of people who have in the same boat. We understand we all look a little different, but we're all just trying to bear the name of Christ properly and represent him the best we can and live for him and help anyone else we can live for him and get the most out of this life and enjoy it and help anyone else get the most out of their lives through him as well. So I want to thank you, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.